Mr. Mercer, would you please read the statement to bring us back into open session?
Chair Swigert, I move that the record shows that the only items discussed in the closed meeting were those specifically cited in the motion to convene into the closed meeting and those lawfully exempted from statutory meeting requirements.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Lamonia. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Dr. Smith.
Motion carries with all board members voting yes.
Dr. Cotton, do you have items resulting from closed session?
Yes, Madam Chair. I recommend that student number 1 be expelled under the conditions discussed.
I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Mercer. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Poole. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion carries with a vote of 8-0. Board Member Boone has abstained.
Thank you. Next, I'll entertain a motion on the appeal pursuant to policy 9-21.
Yeah, Chair Swigert, I move to uphold the superintendent's decision.
Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. McCormick. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Dr. Smith.
Motion carries with all board members present voting yes.
If there are no additional items, we'll move on to the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. At this time, I'd like to call upon Rabbi Israel Zoberman from Temple Lev Tikva, who will give the opening invocation. Afterward, I'll ask Adrian Dela Cruz, a 5th grader from G.W. Carver Intermediate School, to lead us in the pledge. Please stand as you're able. Rabbi Zoberman is not with us at this time, so we will observe a moment of silence. Adrian, please join us at the podium.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Adrian and family, for joining us tonight. Please enjoy the rest of your evening. Next, under awards and recognitions, we have a special music presentation. Dr. Smith.
Thank you, Chair Swigert. As you may have noticed, we have some special guests in the room. I would like to welcome the Deep Creek High School Orchestra Quartet under the direction of Rez Ramos Smiley for a very special holiday music presentation. Take it away.
On behalf of the board, I'd like to thank the high school quartet for being here with us tonight, including Director Ramos Smiley. We really appreciate that beautiful music. Thank you again. We will now move on to the hearing on the capital improvement. Dr. Smith, are there any requested time to speak during?
No, Mr. Swigert, we have 0 citizens that have signed up to speak under the public hearing for the CIP.
We will now move on to the hearing of citizens. During their allotted time, speakers should observe our rules of decorum and know that expressions of concerns and criticism on matters of school policy and operations is welcome. Speakers' own comments are welcome. They may not play pre-recorded messages. Dr. Smith, are there any citizens who have requested time to speak this evening?
Yes, Chair Swigert, we have 3 citizens request.
I want to thank those speakers who have signed up to address the board this evening. There are 2 ways that citizens can request time to speak at the meeting. Call the clerk's office before 12 noon the day of the meeting, or sign up to speak prior to the start of the meeting. All in-person requests must be submitted to the deputy clerk 5 minutes prior to the published meeting start time. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to address the board. Once your allotted time is over, we ask that you may choose to sit in the boardroom if seats are available, but standing or sitting on the floor will not be permitted, and you may not exit doors. We'd also like to ask that you refrain from any behavior that disrupts the meeting, including the use of applause, cheering, or jeering. Dr. Smith, please call the first speaker.
Yes, on to the podium. Speakers are called in numerical order and are asked to state their name and city of residence.
Nichols. To honor Heman Bekele. He's an Ethiopian-born 16 who was just named America's top scientist for his groundbreaking invention of a skin cancer. 22.1, 53.13.8. Standards of quality 8 compliance. Standards of quality described in this chapter of the Code of Virginia and the standards of quality required by Article 8, Section 2 of the Constitution of Virginia. Each local school board shall provide, as a minimum, the programs and services as provided in the SOQ prescribed above, with state and local funds as apportioned by the General Assembly in the Appropriation Act and to the extent funding is provided by the General Assembly. The board shall report its compliance with the standards of quality to the Board of Education annually. Compliance shall be submitted to the board by the chairman of the local school board and the superintendent. We found out that there was a school that did not do this, so I'm hoping to simply remind the board here to make sure that they do this yearly.
Speaker number 2, we'd like to invite you to the podium. Please state your name and city of residence before you begin.
Good evening. I'm Williams, and I reside in Chesapeake, and I'm here to encourage teachers. Once again, it's my pleasure to stress to teachers just how great you really are. As you approach the winter holiday, you are to be commended for making it this far with all of your faculty intact, no pun intended. Teachers, you have shown exceptional determination. You actually could teach others in the public domain how to keep on ticking. There's a certain body of folks who shall remain nameless, Congress, the audacity to say right before the Thanksgiving holiday that they had been together for 10 and tensions were running high, and it was time for them to take a break. So what did they do? Week before Thanksgiving, and will be leaving this week for their Christmas break. Teachers with another whole week to be all you can be, and naturally, because that's who you are. But when you leave next week, walk out the door knowing that you are the cream of the crop, the best of the best, and indeed shoulders above all the rest. Walk out the door until 2024 and make a concerted effort to refrain from picturing plans or parents until 2024. Thank you.
Speaker number 3, it's your turn at the podium. Please state your name and city of residence before you begin.
My name is Sean Loescher, and I'm a resident of Chesapeake. I want to express my commitment to enacting Duncan's proposed policy revisions in alignment with the Department of Education's model policies on ensuring privacy, dignity, and respect for all students in Virginia Public Schools 2023. As a citizen of Chesapeake, I have to wonder why the school keeps trying to move away from its self-proclaimed primary focus of educating children. For a year, the school board is saying that it wanted to get away from distractions about school facility use and get back to focusing on the education of children. I looked at the school board meetings and videos for the last year, and I'm confused as to why this topic is added to the agenda. Do Chesapeake school board members really want to vote on another divisive policy and evidence-based and that most large, diverse Virginia school districts are ignoring? Very common for Virginia school boards to ignore governor's model guidance. For example, only 10% of school districts implemented former Governor Northam's model guidance in support of protections for trans in 2021. Glenn Youngkin's model policy is discriminatory. Why would you not want children to use a name they are comfortable with? The model policy isn't evidence-based, and you can decipher that because no evidence is given in the policy specification. The vast majority of pertinent and the opposite of what this policy calls. What is mentioned is parental rights. What is forgotten is have full constitutional as well, and that is specifically stated in Chesapeake Schools policy. This policy isn't about parental rights, though. This is forcing trans kids into the shadows. It isn't the school to inform parents of things that they would already know, caring parents of a trans child. If you don't know you're trans, then there is a reason you don't know that. Parent, you should ask yourself why your child wasn't open to telling you that. So by implementing this policy that requires school staff to tell parents that, then you are endangering children and opening yourself to litigation once again. I implore you not to implement these discriminatory changes and focus on the core mission of providing high-quality education to the children of Chesapeake.
This concludes our speakers for this evening.
Thank you for your comments. Our practice is to receive information. However, we do not usually engage in dialogue, and that is our intent. If appropriate and not already provided, someone from the superintendent's staff will evaluate your response. We will now move on to the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion for approval. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. McCormick. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Dr. Smith.
Motion carries with all board members voting.
We're moving on to the information agenda. The first item is the monthly financial.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In your packet, you have an interim financial report for the month of October. As you can see, $48 million. Again, most of it's from the state, and that's going to be the case every month. We did receive a small amount of money from the federal government, less than $1 million. Our enrollment is low projection, and the November 14th council action will change our appropriation to reflect not only that enrollment, but the additional funds from the General Assembly. You will see that reflected when you get the financial statements at the end of January. So we're still monitoring. We always monitor revenues and expenditures, and sales tax is a little bit as robust as we would like, but that's been the case across the whole state. So we'll see when the governor's budget comes December 20th, what the expectations are for him for the 23-24 budget and 24-25 budget. We did fully expend our ESSER funds by September 30th and put in our reimbursement for those to get approved and refunded to us. Other than that, so far everything looks good. So I'm available if you have questions.
Seeing none, thank you. The next item on the information agenda is proposed resolutions. Dr. Smith.
Thank you, Chair Swigert. At board member request, several policies with proposed revisions have been prepared for the board. The intent behind these revisions is to ensure that these are closely aligned with the Virginia Department of Education's policies on ensuring privacy of students and parents in Virginia's public schools. The majority of the policy revisions I think you'll see are in consistency in our policy language to make it clear that we are maintaining a safe and supportive environment free from discrimination and harassment. There are two items I would like to call to your attention. First is in reference to student education and confidentiality. The proposed policy changes require a request from a parent or student for a change in name or pronouns that would vary from what is contained in the student's official record. Eligible student is one as being 18 years of age or older. Next is in reference to counseling services. As you know, the Code of Virginia requires that guidance and counseling services be made available to all students. The proposed revisions include language to ensure that parents support any such services provided to the child regarding pertaining to gender. Copies of all the proposed revisions are in board docs for your review. Unless there are any questions, these items would be placed on the consent agenda for
Thank you, Dr. Smith. I have received feedback that many have been ready to move this item to consent at this time and would like to consider for further study components from the model policies. So please hold off for now on moving that to consent. Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you.
The next agenda is in reference to School Board Policy 9-57. Dr. Miller.
Thank you, Chair Swaggart. Policy 57, Health and Welfare, the Albuterol Administration, is being updated to reflect the House Bill 2429, authorizing licensed athletic trainers under contract with the local school division to administer albuterol inhalers and valve hold chambers or nebulize students. Therefore, athletic trainers have been added to the policy along with school nurses who are qualified to administer albuterol to students in respiratory distress after appropriate training. If the board agrees with this addition to this policy, I will place it on the next board meeting under the consent agenda. May I answer any questions at this time?
I see no questions, Dr. Miller. Thank you.
Thank you.
The last item on the agenda is the proposed 24-25 school calendar. Dr. Smith.
Thank you, Chair Swag. It's time to start looking ahead to the 2024-25 school year. Director of Planning, Policy, and Research, Mrs. Fallon Graham, is with us tonight to review a draft of our proposed calendar. Mrs. Graham?
Good evening, Chair Swigert, Vice Chair Mercer, and members of the board. Tonight, I will be presenting the preliminary proposed calendar for the 24-25 school year. We're going to open a survey for community feedback on the proposed calendar. And then on January 8th, we will present the results of the survey and a draft calendar for school board review and request action. Has several guiding principles that are considered when designing a proposed calendar, and the principles are listed on the screen, but I'd like to highlight a few. First, our primary objective is to preserve as much instructional time as possible. The state requires that all school divisions plan a calendar that includes a minimum of 180 instructional days or 990 instructional hours. We seek to align our winter and spring breaks with neighboring districts and reopen schools the first weekday after the New Year's Day observance. At the high school level, we seek to balance each semester with 90 instructional days and provide 2 teacher workdays in between semesters to allow time for the mid-year switch on a 4x4 block schedule. And then finally, we for elementary teachers throughout the school year. Now I'd like to provide an overview of the preliminary proposed calendar. It's at your seat and it's also available on board docs. Starting with guiding principle 1, which is to maximize instructional time. At the elementary level, we are proposing 177 school days for the 24-25 school year. This includes 89 instructional days for the first semester and 80 semester. We are teacher planning time by providing 3 elementary-only teacher workdays that fall on Fridays. high school levels, we are proposing 180-day calendar, which includes 90 days for the first semester and then 90 days for the second semester. As it is our objective to preserve as much instructional time as possible and include 180 days in our calendar, we can proudly say that our proposed calendar achieves this. We've included a breakdown of the 4x4 grading periods for high school semesters here. And then as you can see, we were able to achieve the same number of days in each quarter, which is very helpful for instructional planning purposes. To announce that our proposed calendar meets 12 out of 13 of the calendar principles. The first day of school will be after Labor Day. There are 10 teacher workdays for all levels during the work week, with 3 additional elementary only teacher workdays, and then there's 1 in-service day for all schools in November. We do have one instance where students will attend school one day and then have off the next day. This is one day occurs on Monday, November 4th, with a teacher workday on election day, which is Tuesday, November 5th. And then students will return to school for the rest of the week. The reason we provide a teacher workday and in-service day on Tuesday, November 5th, is because a number of our schools serve as voting sites, and we feel as though not having students in the building during that time is in the interest of safety. School offices will be closed on Monday, November 11th for Veterans Day, and neighboring districts who have published calendars. We have 2 teacher workdays between the first and second semester on January 24th and January 27th of 2025. And we have graduation ceremonies scheduled for June 11th through 13th of 2025. Our spring break will be observed on April 14th through the 18th. And our Thanksgiving holiday begins with an early release on November 27th, with schools closed on November 28th and 29th. On December 20th, with schools closed December 23rd through January 1st. It's not possible to schedule the full day off for November 27th, 2024. In order to make November 27th a full day off, a day would have to be taken from winter break. Day from break ends on January 1st. The only day that could possibly be shifted would be December 23rd. Changing November 27th to the full day off would require students to attend school on December 23rd for an early release day, and then therefore attending school only. Sometimes we're asked questions if the early release days can be combined to form one full day off. Early release days count as a full day, so we cannot combine the early release days on November 27th with the early release on 20th to create a full day off. You can visit cpschools.com/survey input on the draft calendar and offer any suggestions for improvement while aligning with principles. The feedback gathered will help us inform possible revisions to the draft calendar. The survey will be open tonight for all stakeholders and then will close on Friday, December 22nd. Answer any questions for you at this time.
I don't see any at this time, but maybe when we have time to digest, you may see more.
Sure. Thank you.
Moving on to the action agenda, the first item is the Superintendent's Capital Improvement Plan Work Session action. Ms. Stutz.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Superintendent's proposed capital improvement plan was initially presented on October 20th. Additionally, we had a work session and a public hearing at the November meeting. The second public hearing was held, and of course, we did not have anyone who spoke on that topic. We do not have a formal presentation prepared for you this evening, but Mr. Bertocchi and myself, of course, are available if you have any questions. Also, this evening, final action is being requested. If it is approved by the it will become the school board's proposed capital improvement plan, and it will be the inclusion in their capital improvement plan review. And as you know, council takes typically during when they take action on their operating budget, and it's required by May 15th. So again, we're available for any questions you have. We are requesting approval this.
Are there any questions for Ms. Stutz or Mr. Bertocchi at this time? Seeing none, I'll motion for approval. By Ms. Scott, is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Poole. Is there any additional discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Mr. Smith.
Motion carries with all board members voting yes.
The second and final item on the action agenda is the VSBA Capital Conference. Smith.
Thank you, Chair Swigert. I have an opportunity to share with the board. The Virginia School Board is holding their annual Capital Conference on January 22nd and 23rd in Richmond. There is also the opportunity to attend this conference remotely. By a show of hands, are there any board members who are interested in attending the VSBA's Capital Conference? Seeing none, this concludes my item.
I misspoke, that was not the final item. The third and final agenda is the representation agreement. Mr. Ballin.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Has been to into a engagement agreement with 5 different law firms to bring against several social media companies, including Facebook, Meta, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, YouTube, and Google. The purpose for entering this lawsuit is claims for the damages the school division has sustained as a result of the actions of social media companies. If the school board decides to enter this lawsuit, it will join hundreds of school districts across the country, and by the most recent media reports that I have read, 42 state attorney generals. The engagement agreement has been provided to board members for their review. If anyone has any questions, I'll be happy to address them.
No questions at this time. Mr. Lamonia, would you offer a motion for approval?
Yes, Madam Chair, I move to enter into the attorney-client engagement agreement staff and Carmel LLP and its co-counsel for the purposes of retaining those firms for legal services, pursuing claims for damages, social media litigation, including against Facebook, Meta, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, YouTube, Google, and others, as well as others, and determined appropriate by our attorneys.
Is there a seconded by Mr. Poole? Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All opposed? Dr. Smith.
Motion carries with all board members voting yes.
Mr. Lamonia?
Also move to grant you, Chair, authority to sign the attorney-client engagement agreement, agreeing to its terms and identifying Dr. Cotton or his designee to serve as the representative of the school division for the purposes of this agreement.
Seconded by Mr. Mercer. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All opposed? Dr. Smith.
Motion carries with all voting yes.
We're now moving to the superintendent's report. Dr. Cotton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a couple of announcements before I share my spotlight this evening. As a reminder, students 2 hours early on December 21st, 2023. Offices will be closed from December 22nd, 2023 through January 1st, 2024. I have to get used to saying that. For the winter holidays. Our doors will open for the new year on January 2nd. When we return in January, I'm looking forward to traveling with many of you when we will be meeting with the members of the Chesapeake delegation. This is a great opportunity to discuss priorities with our representatives, and we will be meeting with February 25th. I hope that many of you can. We had a great legislative meeting with them recently, and we'll look forward to traveling to Richmond to reiterate our thank you again for the opportunity to share my superintendent spotlight with you this evening. It's been an opportunity to share some district highlights with you, and so many great things have been accomplished since we met last. In November, we celebrated Family and Community Engagement Month, but our FACE team has been busy all year providing resources and support to our community. At Oscar Smith School, they hosted their second annual Family Movie Night and provided an opportunity for families to connect with each other. Families enjoyed dinner, activities, and the first 100 attendees also received their very own snack box during the screening of Super Mario Brothers movie. Lots of holiday traditions in our schools before Thanksgiving. Great Bridge Intermediate fifth graders held their annual tradition with a version of the Macy's Thanksgiving Parade. Each class created their literacy genres float, part of the culminating assignment on creative writing and elements of a story. The parade was led by the Great Bridge High School marching band and mascot, and they even had a special visit from Santa. Our schools have also found some incredible ways to get parents involved in their child's education. Great Bridge Middle School recently hosted their Family Math Night. With the support of Old Dominion University, each participant received a backpack filled with math, enjoyed snacks, and received stamps on their passport after completing various math stations. Another highlight including an Amazon Kids Pro Fire tablet donated by Old Dominion. The first LEGO League competition was held right before Thanksgiving, and 4 of our schools had outstanding showings at the event. The tournament aims to promote STEM education and teamwork among young participants. Each team based on robotic performance, research, design, cooperation, and inclusion. Congratulations to Greenbrier Intermediate for winning the Robot Performance and the Champions Award, and they will advance to the championships this weekend at James Madison University. We'd also like to congratulate Crestwood Intermediate for winning the Core Value Award, Truett Intermediate for winning in Robot Design, and Thurgood for winning the Innovative Project Award. We'd like to thank the Virginia Department of Education for the grant that provided funding for the Thurgood Marshall team. Through another wonderful partnership with the JCA Foundation, select students were provided with a little holiday magic at the 18th annual Kids Cruise event held at Oscar Smith Middle. The school was transformed into a winter wonderland where students received gifts, played games, made crafts, and took a holiday lights tour at the beach. Thanks to our family and community engagement team and our teachers who supported the event. JCA's goal is to show children the benefits of giving back in hopes they will do the same for others in the future. Thank you to our board members who recently joined us at the Chesapeake Career Center to celebrate Bring Your Legislator to School Month. We were also joined by several members of the Virginia General Assembly and members of their staff to hear about the Career Center and our goals to expand the program in Chesapeake. Legislators heard directly from Paul Saltarelli, the Parts and Service Director of Cavalier Ford Lincoln, and senior cosmetology student Reagan Davis about her experiences with Career Center. I think the board members who attended would agree with me that they both had very powerful stories to share. Thank you to CCC for hosting and to the Culinary Arts Program at Grassfield High School. Many members of the board, actually all of the members of the board, I will say, joined us for the one of my favorite times of the year, and that's the 2024 Teacher of the Year ceremony. 8 individual honorees who joined us at Indian River High School with their colleagues and families. I'd like to thank the Indian River Music and the JROTC students event, the Greenbrier Middle School Chorus, and our school nutrition services team for catering the event. It was an incredible night celebrating our teaching superstars. Let's take a look back at the event.
Join me to acknowledge our 2024 Teachers of the Year.
As you know, we also announced our 4 district-level winners. I hope you'll join me in congratulating our Teacher of the Year, Chelsea Nash from Deep Creek Elementary, Middle School Teacher of the Year, Kathy Mustaine from Chesapeake Virtual Academy, High School Teacher of the Year, Maurice Frazier, High School, Chesapeake Teacher of the Year, Alyssa May from Primary School. We are so proud of all these outstanding educators. I'd also like to thank the Chesapeake Education Foundation, who presented Mrs. Card. Congratulations again to all of our Teachers of the Year. We are so proud that you represent Chesapeake Public Schools, and we look forward to honoring you at our board meeting in a future upcoming meeting, most likely in January. This completes my spotlight for this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Cotton. Last this evening is board member items. Does any board member have an item to bring before the group? Dr. Walker?
Yes, thank you. I already touched on both of these things, but I just want to congratulations to all of our Teachers of the Year. We had a great night celebrating you. All of our teachers deserve celebration, but we're really lucky for the opportunity to be able to appreciate. And then also Kids Cruise had the opportunity to attend. It was a great event, and I just can't go without saying again, thank you to Jay Archbell and the JCA Foundation for your generosity. It goes so far with making Christmas for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of our students. Thankful, and also just for all the volunteers that were there, and a special shout out to our family and community engagement team. Lots of coordination and planning and effort. And to me, on the outside, it looked just so organized, and I know that it was probably stressful, but just great job, and I really liked the new organization of it this year. So thanks to everybody who made that so awesome for our kids.
Are there any additional items?
Those are all great things. 7 of us braved the rain, the wind, the weather, along with our children and grandchildren on the at the great parade. And I want to give the best I plan on for giving us the but also Scott and a number of others, but Kim putting together beautiful lit trees and everything else on there, and for hard work. I've got something I want to share with you tonight before we go, so bear with me and listen carefully. I want to announce tonight that I will not seek to be the vice January. I agreed last January vice chair in light of the fact that 6 of you were in your first year. You've done great, by the way. It has been an honor to get to know you as you have spent this first year on the board. I truly think we've worked well together under Chair Swigert